I'm Dante Pendragon. So we're going to be playing a probably quick session of Novo. Let's get started. So in Novo, you take on the role of guardian spirits of a freshly founded settlement, and you bring it to existence. And our purpose is to witness its growth and shepherd its development and share its stories. And there's a number of play overview steps of kind of setting up what your city's going to be, what kind of setting you want it to be in, what your intention is for it. Is it just going to be a game? Is this going to be something you use for a campaign setting or a story or whatever you think, whatever the reason is for you actually going through this process. So this is just going to be me doing it, so I'm just going to kind of go through myself. If you could play this with multiple people, but you'd have to have a kind of discussion as to, do I want this to be fantasy, science fiction, steampunk, that kind of setting. Setting assumptions, this is going to be a fantasy world. It is a fantasy world that contains magic. There are different forms of magic. There are multiple continents on this world. That's kind of the expectation of the world that we're building. The target size. We have to determine the target size of our settlement. You could... there's a table for this. You could roll, I guess, but they say not to. So first we're going to pick one from the scale size table, and we're going to go with a medium city. The city of Air was founded at some time by a group of adventurers in tribute to one of their fallen comrades. And it's kind of a large port city on the eastern coast of this continent. So the first thing that we need to do is, for medium city, is to split the map with 11 lines. And you would do this either by, if you're playing with multiple people, you would do it in multiple turns. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to use an orange pencil for that. So we've got our map here. And we're just going to... One, two, three, four, five, six. Just be going over this one. We'll say 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then we need to set aside 13 citizen tokens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And these are just tokens from a game that I'm going to use. All right. We've determined the target size of our city. Choose the target age. So we pick an age from the table. So for the size of the city, it could have gone from anywhere from a village town, small city, medium city, large city, all the way up to a metropolis. And all those kind of have a short description. A medium city is a sizable city with multiple specialized industries and a constant need for food imports. A small city is large enough for a marketplace or maybe even a school. It's bigger than that. A large city is the capital of a nation and holds at least one university. And there is a university, so it kind of puts it square in that medium city. For its age, I'm going to stick with that same kind of middle ground age of aged. It's like after a few hundred years of urban development, the city has gone through its fair share of turmoil. It's been a city for a couple hundred years. So it's going to be an aged civilization. That's the discussion phase. So we know what we're making. Next, we have the founding phase. We're going to found our city. So the first decision is a major geography. Find out. So we'd roll on the terrain geography table and draw the major shape. So the terrain geography table contains things like mountains, plateaus, valleys, deep forest, hills. Is it inland, riverland, coastal, peninsula, island, or something special? And it is. This is already true. It is a coastal city. And for a coastal, it's just a rugged or smooth coast. What do people believe about this sea or this lake? So we're going to draw a coastal line covering about a third of the map with water. So we're going to go right along here. Probably a little bit more than a third, but that's the coast. And what do the people believe about this sea? The sea has monsters in it. There is land across the sea. There isn't really intercontinental communication, but people have traveled. So they do know that there is at least, you get in the water and you head east, you hit something. That they know for a fact. And then next, we're going to get some terrain features. This turn is repeated 4 times. Each turn you discover a new terrain feature and add it to the map. So we're going to roll on the terrain feature table. So here we've got things like volcanoes, lakes, wetlands, caves, mountains, depressions, trenches, hills, woods, barren, or a river. So we're going to do that 4 times. And so there's 12 of those, so we're going to roll 2d6 for that. I'm going to be using these lovely 12-sided d6s. So they've got 2 of each number on there. That just roll a little bit better. So the first one we've got is a 5. So we've got some hills. Let's see. One big hill or an area of rolling hills. What hides among the grasses and trees here? So let's get a... I think there's some rolling hills in this city. Um, and I think there's a certain kind of flower. It's a white flower that grows on these hills. Uh, it doesn't really grow anywhere else that anyone knows of. All right. All right, so we've got a 7. 7 is a river. And it's a large meandering river. What travels on this river? Further west is was a like some forest people. Not necessarily elves or woodland creatures, but not those. Not really sure what they are, but they're kind of the people of the woods, and they have been known to kind of travel a little further east along the lines of this river. We got a 6. 6 is the woods. So obviously we got the woods over here. What grows in the shadow of these trees? It'd be the forest people. Again, they grow out of the woods. Maybe they're plant people, or maybe they just take their growth from in the trees. But that is where they draw their strength. All right, we got an 8. No, 8 is a lake. A large lake or a series of smaller ones, maybe an oasis. What formed this lake and what creatures frequent it? The lakes are on the northern edge of the city. And it's a series of small lakes. They're not interconnected. but they do kind of are kind of clumped together. What kind of creatures frequent it? There's going to be some kind of deer like creatures that frequent the lakes that are magical, mystical. They're special. I think of the deer in Japan that, while they are no longer considered to be have the spiritual essence that makes them divine creatures anymore, they are still held with respect, or kind of just left alone. Like, they may or may not have some kind of spiritual essence to them, but nobody really wants to figure it out, and everyone just kind of leaves them alone. All right. So then we need our founding location. So we have the surroundings. Let's find out about this place is special enough to build a settlement there. Roll on the purpose location table, draw a related resource, and move 2 power tokens from the pool to that resource. Purpose location. All right. Actually, it's a culturally important location. I'm supposed to take 2 of these power tokens, which are probably a bit too big for the ones I grabbed for this. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put it where these lines cross the river. I think that's where the founding took place. So it says it's a holy site, place, or the site of ancestors. What makes it so important? What rites were practiced here? What claim do the settlers have to this holy land? So the important site here is the site where Ayer fell. In the ye olde times, the times of pretty much before recorded history, there were a group of adventurers that worked together, and so the rest of their group kind of formed the city of Ayer in her memory, as kind of like the first fallen hero in the world. That's So she's kind of like a she was the being of legend. She was the first one, and that's kind of what makes this place so important. Over the years, that's probably been forgotten, but that was the original intention. So, need to add a resource. What's that resource going to be? And in that place was a font of like a divine kind of healing energy, and so that's where so we've got that right here, and that's kind of where this city is going to be based out of. So we've got a resource there, and we've got 2 power tokens on it. All right, that's the location. All right, so we kind of skipped ahead, but the next thing is the settlement decision. This turn tells us who initiated the founding of the settlement. So we're supposed to roll on the decision table for that. And we've got things with like by accident, temporary settlement, nomad settling in, refugees in need, settlers looking for freedom, exploratory outpost, colonization, business venture, divine commandment, pioneers looking for opportunity. Let's see. So for that, we're supposed to draw the first settlement district, and put a citizen token on it. Let's see. I don't want to roll for this because we know why the city was founded. I don't want to necessarily go with divine commandment. It's not really a religious thing. So I'm going to go with settlers looking for freedom. So the idea for that one is what kind of freedom is important to this community, and what oppressive authority did they leave behind? Does their new home have native inhabitants? So I think this is going to be the idea being that this is kind of where they it's built as like a safe haven for the people of this land against the against the monsters of the world. And I don't know how. Let's see. Let's see if there's any information. There's no information about how to draw the first district or how big a district should be. Those are the kind of things I always want to know. In playing these kinds of games. Let's see. Let's look up districts. Right. Districts. They're places where people of the city live, work, and socialize. They're generally mixed use, but you can, especially more technologically advanced, mark the district for residential. Have density from 1 to 3 represented by the number of tokens. Drawing. For districts drawn a regular blob that demarcates the district shape. It should be roughly the size of one region. If your regions are vastly different in size, just make sure your districts have sizes that relate to one another. As you draw a district, it may be helpful to set its outline a slight distance back from the region lines to clearly differentiate the two. A region is an abstract space or abstract unit of space that provides a sense of scale and it helps you shape your city. When you split your map into regions, you're not drawing straight lines. You can use circles, squiggles to create. Okay, so we're going to say that these are the regions that I've created with the orange lines, and then so we're going to build our first district, and that's going to be in here. So that's there, and we're going to put 1 citizen token on it. Put that right there. All right. Now we go to our starting hierarchy. The people have settled. It's time to figure out how they organize their lives. This turn demonstrates the power structure of the community. It also tells us how these people got there and draw the path and or the vehicle that got them there. All right. So we roll on the power hierarchy, and I'm up for rolling on that. This is just going to be 1d6. And we got a 1 on that one, on these lovely Troika dice. 1 is an unstructured collective. Basic village communism or rampant anarchy. How do people deal with outsiders or dissidents? Draw the route that led people there. All right, let's draw a route. What's the route going to be? What color am I going to use? All right. So I think people kind of came out from under the woods and up to air. And how they deal with outsiders or dissidents. I mean, I think they're kind of taking it in. I think that the people that founded the city kind of like made it it was like a camp that just kind of stayed permanent. And I think the other heroes that founded it kind of set it up. Or like, hey, this is an important place, and then they kind of just went on their way. So I don't think I think just to kind of anarchy's not a bad word for it. Um, but um, it's like a reserved anarchy. Um, yeah. Community factions. We figure out how power is shared or split within the community. This will produce a number of factions. I'm going to roll, determine the factions, and add the first landmark. Then the next player adds a second landmark until all have been placed. So we're going to do this a couple of times. Roll on the table. Note name and symbol of a faction on a note card and a landmark for that faction. Change active player, create a note. Make a power token from the city. Faction that is initially in power. All right. Let's take a look at this a little bit more in depth in the rules. All right. Let's see, what do we got? We got landmarks. Landmarks is important. Adding a landmark. When you add a landmark, you can either construct a new one, repurpose, or discover another one. All right, so there's little buildings. Let's get to the thing. So it's a D6. And we got a 6. All right. The power factions. The power factions in air. Is a complex web. There's 3 factions with a delicate balance of interests. What faction is the oldest? How do they share power? And what ambition drives the others? All right, so we need to come up with 3 factions for this city. All right, so the first faction. They're going to be the Aerists. They were there first. And they're about kind of making a peaceful and safe place for they want to keep the peaceful and good people of the world safe. And so they're going to build a little keep right here. they share power. Um, You're meritocracy. So if you're doing good, you are deserving of the protection of the Aerists. Um, let's see. Then there's who else is there? So we've got all right. So the next faction, the third faction, are we're going to call them the Grinders. They're the smallest faction. They they're a group of monster hunters. So while everybody's trying to keep people safe, the Ayers are trying to keep people safe. The Grinders are kind of going out there and taking care of the problem. And they've got a little hut along the road where they kind of pull in some recruiting. And I'm going to say the second faction are just, they're the curious. And they're the forest people that have kind of moved out of the forest. And they're going to... Let me take a look at some of these landmarks. What are they given for examples? They've got a... They got a little Ewok village situation going on over there. And they kind of stick to themselves and are just trying to do their own thing. But I've got another tower token going over there. Now, I think that's going to cover some factions. And then the last step of the founding phase is naming the city, which we've already done. The next phase is the development phase. This represents the unpredictable changes that shape a city as time passes. So you determine a random event and try to make sense of it within the story of the settlement. Questions with each entry are inspirational prompts and may be ignored or challenged at will. You also ask the other players for ideas. Often the table asks you to perform an action that adds or removes something from the map. If it is possible, you may add or remove something of your choice instead. And then if you want, you can use a citizen token from the pool to add a district to the map. That means that during the period the city grew normally. All right. All right, so I think, and then there's another phase at the end where we kind of finalize stuff, but it seems like we kind of just do the development phase until we're kind of happy with what we've built. We're going to call that a good place to stop for today. So we've got 3 factions, 1 district, some features, some geologic features. And then we're ready to see what's going to happen to these people. I think they're interesting so far. We'll see how it all plays out. I think this is an interesting system. I think that it might benefit from some extra players. I think that having, in the same way that you can't really play Quiet Ear by yourself, you really need some other people to kind of interject and, oppose, take up different sides, just have different ideas. There's always benefits to a collaborative creation. Or a lot of the time there is, not always. So I think that's kind of like if you want to use this as a tool, it's got some good prompts, some good things to think about, and kind of to get you going to thinking about your city. I think it would be, again, like I said, I think it'd be good to have somebody else working on it because then they can kind of, you know, interject their own ideas, something you wouldn't have thought of. These are just some of my thoughts after an initial. This is my first time trying it, first time playing Ex Novo. I'm certainly not an expert by any stretch. I should say this is, before I sign off, this has been Dante Pendragon. I've been playing Ex Novo from Shark Bomb Games by designer Martin Nirikar and Konstantinos Dimopoulos. That's me having a hard time reading names and also reading font because I need glasses. This is our city where we are now, and I think I'm going to try and get back to this at some later point. If you are seeing this, take care. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening.